What's up? And we are doing a cross promotion today with Social Jello with Angelo podcast and the Live Clean and Fight Dirty show here with John Hackleman and our special guest, Tim Hartman. So you saw the title, The Fight for Relevance. Is your martial arts still effective? We're going to be going over what martial arts look like in 2025. And we have John Hackleman right here. No questions there. You know what's going on. And we're going to be going over with Tim. Some of you know Tim. Tim's kind of infamous and famous all at the same time. And we have a lot of questions for him. But we want to talk about, first of all, what actually works and what doesn't. And, well, Tim stirred the pot online plenty of times with BJJ guys and modern martial arts. And I guess, what's your goal when you put this stuff together? I'm going to give Tim some time to start talking right off the bat. What is your goal when you're doing this stuff, man?
Well, first of all, anyone who does social media understands that you need to get the algorithms to work to you. You stir the pot, you do something controversial, or you dress in a thong and do something. No one wants to see me in a thong. I mean, there might be somebody out there, but we're better off with doing things controversial. I address certain topics. Unfortunately, for some people, they fall into the clickbait and they don't listen to what I actually say. And I actually have a lot of respect. I was actually the first person to bring Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu into Buffalo, New York. But if you look at the art, not to go too down the rabbit hole here, it is a sport. That's how it was devised. It was from the newaza, or the ground grappling element of judo. So all of the real life combatives have been taken out long before the Gracies ever got it. And there's a difference between fighting in the ring and defending yourself in the street. So if you listen to what I say, I don't bust people's chops. There are definitely people out there who I'm doing point counterpoint with, but it's point counterpoint. And then they listen to, they read the clickbait title, and then they watch the video with the volume off.
Well, I'm pretty sure right now, like with a long format podcast like this, I don't even get the opportunity for the captions. There's going to be at least 50 people who just jump in and start arguing without actually watching the first 10 seconds of what we just said.
Well, whatever.
And kind of just going back to you, I think a lot of people watching may not actually know your actual background. Like I know it's FMA, and that's about as far as it goes. Can you give like a short version of how you came up and who you trained under?
Well, I started in Filipino Martial Arts first, so it is not the norm. Usually you cross train in from karate, taekwondo, or whatever. So I started at the Filipino Karate Academy. That was owned by John Bryant. He was the head instructor, but Grandmaster Remy Amador Preces was a financial backer there. About a year after we started, I went in a different direction. John started to get out of martial arts. I had left, and Grandmaster Remy reached out to me directly. Said, if you want to continue training, I'll teach you. So I think that was about 20 years old, 21. It was a no-brainer for me. I mean, when the Grandmaster reaches out to you directly, I'm like, okay, sounds like a plan. And then he opened the door for me to work with a whole bunch of people. I specialize a lot of Filipino martial arts. But I've also trained in other systems, or cross-trained, I should say. Bando, it's a Burmese martial art. Dr. Mungji, who's a consultant to Joe Lewis, Danny Inasano, and a whole bunch of other people. That's where I got. He actually probably taught me the most about becoming a teacher, or thinking about things as a teacher, and helped me groom what I'm doing. But anytime there was a seminar going on and stuff of that nature, I would hop in. Even to this day, when I have time off, I'm attending seminars. And then, I've been doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu since the 90s. Recently, I got my blue belt. Oh, and people say, oh, you're not competent. That's why it took so long. No, we weren't worrying about belts. I was worrying about how to focus on the ground elements that were relevant to street encounters. And a lot of stuff we were doing had nothing to do with rank promotion. And, so finally my coach was like, dude, you should have been done this. We should have done this like a decade ago. So now I'm working on my purple belt, which it's really unimportant to me. It is more. I mean, the belts are nothing. What is a belt is everything and nothing all at once. It shows to me what I've done, but it means nothing because I still got to pay the same amount for a gallon of gas or a cup of coffee or whatnot. But it's a metric for me to measure myself on, or a metric for me to measure my students on.
Makes sense. So now we're going to turn the page here to John. John, so you've worked with elite fighters, and some of the stuff that Tim is talking about. What do you see as a gap between sport and self-defense? What do you think on some of these points?
So I think 100%. Jiu-jitsu is a sport. I mean, I love the sport. Some of my best friends are jiu-jitsu guys, but it is a sport. It's not it's not for the street. And that's why when they go, oh, you guys promote your guys, you give them your belts so easy. It takes us a long time. I said, yeah, it's called sandbagging. It's because you're a sport and you want to keep your guys as low as they can be for as long as they can be because they do better in the tournaments. I mean, that's a no-brainer. But it's a great sport, but it's a sport nevertheless. And we have pit jitsu, which is once the fight hits the ground, then it's either street, which is pit jitsu, or in the cage, it's going to be MMA. On the mat, it's BJJ. So there are three different dimensions when the fight hits the ground. And if it's jujitsu, straight jujitsu, which that's questionable when you say straight jujitsu. But anyway, forget it. Do that? No, nothing.
You got it.
Okay.
I'll just
anyway. So the fight hits the ground. We do this on our grappling days because if we're grappling for MMA or the street, then somebody mounts you. You'll let them stay postured up, and you'll try to shrimp out while they're okay. And that's jujitsu. In MMA, if you start doing that, they will punch you in the face. You have to break their posture first. So that's something we do. I worked on this program with like Cesar Gracie, Ricardo Laborio. I've got some of the top guys, jiu-jitsu guys in the world that I've asked these questions and I've talked about this. I've gone over it. I go over that with Glover all the time. We take someone takes your back. It doesn't matter if it's a street or MMA, but it does kind of matter if it's BJJ. That one is a little different. But the mount, you have to stay safe. Number one, and number two, escape. So if you're not safe and you're getting pounded by some guy that's postured up, you're going to get knocked out. Referee will stop it. In the street, you're going to get knocked out. He's going to keep punching you until you're in a fucking coma with a subdural hematoma. So street is very different than MMA, and MMA is different than BJJ. But street is closer to MMA than it is to BJJ. Definitely, there's a lot more similarities than differences. With BJJ, not so much. So so since you do the street fighting and then BJJ, I add in right in the middle. I got the middleman, the liaison, the bunkai master, MMA. MMA tells you, for the most part, what's going to work in the street and what's going to work in BJJ. Is not going to work in the street. So that's where even my fighters, when I first started Hawaiian Kempo is straight, street, just street. And then, they wanted to fight, so we had to modify a lot of our stuff and make it more cage friendly. But we'd still work on these techniques that are going to work in the street. Like, I'll give you an example. One of my fighters, he fought for me a lot. Matt Lindland. He also won the world. He won the silver medal in the Olympics, Greco-Roman, and he also was the head coach for the Olympic Greco-Roman team. So he's very sport, but he also fought MMA, so he knows about that. And I wanted him to work more on street stuff for me because my Hawaiian Kempo clinch is a lot different than my MMA clinch because in your Hawaiian Kempo clinch, people can gouge you in the eye, stab you in the face. It's different when you got underhooks. Underhooks are king in wrestling, but they're not king so much in the street. So little things like that, I'd ask Matt, okay, show me a clinch takedown, Greco-Roman style, but make it for the street. And so he would like, because they don't do that, but he would work on things that he thinks would work in the street more. And so I've always been putting those things together. I go from street to MMA to BJJ or sport. Could be sport boxing. Right now, the rules are way different again. If it was in the street, right? You're punching somebody and you drop them. You don't go to a neutral corner. You go and finish them off in the street. In boxing, they go to a neutral corner. So every sport is different, but some are more like fighting than the others. And the most like MMA, the most like the street is MMA. And that's why it's such a good tool for all street fighting guys, except for knife guys. That's a whole different story. But for all guys that are going empty hand into a street fight, the best thing they can do is watch MMA and see, well, I gotta do this because this, so there's I call it Sensei UFC, because it's the UFC is teaching us how to teach for the street. Then that's gonna go round right. It's gonna go full circle because they're gonna see these techniques and they're gonna go, oh, that will work in the cage. Next thing you know, they're gonna be doing it in MMA again, because all these techniques go round in a circle like that.
Well,
right? What do you think?
Since you kind of opened the can of worms, I'm gonna go right to the can of worms. So whenever this comes up, whenever we start talking about sports, self-defense, BJJ, and you mentioned it for a half a second, if a guy has a knife, combative guys, and Tim is in this arena, combative guys that talk about knife and online will always jump into, if there's a knife, it changes everything. If you train a knife, then no longer do we have to worry about some of the things you just mentioned. But then the exact counterpoint that online BJJ guys bring up right away is you guys are living in a fairy world of knife fighting. No one's knife fighting because when they do get into knife fights, they get into prison. So there's this thin line between, are you LARPing? Are you LARPing or are you practicing a martial art? There's a controversial question. I'm just going to throw that right over to Tim.
Okay, so actually, there's a lot of good things that John said in there that I didn't even think about the sandbagging thing, which we definitely need to talk about, because if you look at all the other grappling art, all the judo and jiu-jitsu, they don't take anywhere near as long to get those belts. And I never once thought about that the Brazilians wanted to sandbag, or the Brazilian stylists would want to sandbag, because you think about it, back in the day, well, actually, when it first hit, you could go to a camp in a weekend, come out a blue belt. But now it takes 2 years, which in Taekwondo would be a high brown or a beginning of a black belt. And I never once thought about that. So that's a great point.
Let me just tell you this real quick. Let me interrupt for 1 sec. I had a guy. I don't have him anymore. I kicked him out, but he refused. He had the jiu-jitsu guy, black belt. I'm not going to tell you who he was, but he's the black. He's a high-level black belt. He went to promote this guy to purple belt. Okay, my guy refused the purple belt because he had entered a tournament coming up in the next 2 or 3 months. So he wanted to enter as a blue belt. He wanted to win that division. So he declined his purple belt. So he's gone. He was gone that day. He was out of my gym. But that was like the quintessential, sandbagging. And it's just boggled my mind. Like, you seriously don't want to get, and in Taekwondo, they go right for the black belt. Nothing wrong with that, because they rely more on the degree of the black belt. So they think, but anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's a topic. I would love to dig into that topic a lot, because there's a lot there to unpack. And I never even once thought about that. And And I know even some BJJ guys who've done it. And it'd be different if you're in a, like what we do in our tournament circuit, because we do an open martial arts circuit, whatever your belt is at the beginning of the year, no matter what belt promotion you've got, you compete at that level because you're doing points through the whole season. But everyone in your group is advancing throughout the year. So that makes sense. But if it's not part of a circuit, just a random tournament, wow, that you can't get much more sandbagging than that. But okay, yeah. So the question is about the knife.
Yes.
Okay. So here's the deal. You will not find knife fights, but you will see a knife being pulled out in a fight. And there's a difference. So as martial artists, the first thing a bunch of my videos have been, I don't train to fight another trained martial artist. I train to fight people in real world scenarios because self-defense is important to me. Now, to enhance my skills, I train against other trained martial artists because it's about skill development. And knife dueling, it's LARPing, because what are the odds on a knife dueling situation? That being said, 1/3 of all attacks are with a weapon. So 1 in 3 attacks, a weapon gets pulled out in the middle of it. And in some parts of the country, it's up to 60%. So what are you talking about? I mean, do people fight in the street or are they attacked in the street? And there's a different mindset. I come from a self-defense. I'm not, anything can get picked up, a screwdriver, a hammer, a bottle, you name it, it can get pulled into anything. And people sit there and say, oh, only pussies fight with weapons. Yeah, but calling them names isn't going to stop from someone pulling a knife out. I've had knives pulled on me and I wasn't armed. Okay. I know people who are no longer with us because someone pulled a knife out and that was it. And the thing here is, it doesn't mean we're going to duel. It means out of nowhere, someone pulls out a weapon and attacks you. And that is the reality. And simple things, like what's the difference between sport and self-defense? A friend of mine went into Canada because we're right on the Canadian border. The drinking age is younger. It's 19 over there. Him and his buddy got jumped. His buddy got knocked out with a sucker punch, hit the head on the concrete, and didn't make it home alive. That's the reality of a real world scenario. The problem with all these BJJ guys, or the BJJs as we like to refer to them, is they're so caught up in, they don't understand the difference of real contact versus real context. There's no question there's real physical contact in jiu-jitsu. There's real physical contact in MMA. But if there's rules, if there's refs, if there's safety equipment, if a coach can throw in the towel, if you can get knocked out, tapped out, choked out, or just, quit, whatever, oh, the time's up, keep going, whatever, then it's a sport. I'm not saying that you can't use the stuff in the material in the street, but I'm not worried, like when we talk about like fighting another trained opponent, I'm never worried about someone getting a lucky Kimura on me in the street. But any idiot can get a lucky knockout. Any idiot can cut a vital vein. And anybody can pull a knife on me. And that's the whole idea. It's not about the weapon training. It's not about us using the weapons in the street. It's about understanding how a tool works. So if it's pulled on us, we have a better chance of surviving the encounter. And that's what people don't want to listen to, because it's always the trolls. And actually, the real martial artists, they'll listen to logic for the most part. But it's the LARPers of the BJJ, MMA, or martial art world, the keyboard warriors who have no freaking clue, will never put out content, will be the first to critique, but never show what they know because they don't know anything. They'll talk about storming dojos, but they're the ballless wonders that'll never show up. And there's my rant.
John, Tim went on a rant. Go on a nice rant, John. I know you want to.
I mean, well, there's a couple of things. First of all, I'll tell you a little story. I've been on 2 dojo rampage, or what do you call it?
Dojo.
They're calling them storming dojos these days.
Dojo storming, yeah.
I've done 2 of those in my life, and both of them were a lot of fun. One of them was actually with Cecil Peoples. We were, but someone was putting flyers all over his dojo in LA, and they were come to my dojo instead, and there were a guy down the street
Oh,
And
that's
Cecil
bullshit.
called me one day. He goes, "Hey, John, this fucking guy, let's go get him." So, and Cecil was one of my best friends. You know, Cecil Peoples. He refereed a lot of fights. Anyway, we went down there and yelled at the guys. Never got in a fight, but that was one of them. But the other one's kind of boring. But okay, so weaponry. I agree. This, I think we agree on a lot of stuff that we. But so the knife thing. I love knives. I mean, and I carry a gun, I carry a knife, but so when the street scenario is a straight scenario. A street scenario, I think, right, you're not going to catch a lucky armbar or a lucky a lucky triangle or a lucky flying something, but you might get a lucky tackle or a hard fast tackle, not even like a double leg, just a tackle. So many
Last
people
double.
tackle. So if the best right here, if you hit hard and you can defend a takedown, it's one reason that Chuck, when I was watching Chuck fight, and it was always from his corner, so I was watching with some interest, but so much of the stuff went over was I talked to him in the cage or in the dressing room. I say, this guy's a jiu-jitsu black belt, he's this and this. But he has to clinch. He has to get through your distance. He has to get a hold of you. Then he has to steal your hips from you. Stealing your hips from another man is like a woman stealing her heart from you. They're going to fuck you over both times. You don't want to give up your heart to a female ever, and you don't want to give up your hips to your attacker ever, because in both cases, you're going to end up screwed. Anyway, so we're getting our hips back, and we get good at that. We practice that so much. Now he has to get a hold of you and take you to the ground. Then he has to hold you and prevent you from getting back up. His chances were very good at getting up. Then that grappler has to go through all that sequences again, where all Chuck has to do is catch him with one left or right, and he's going to turn off the guy's computer and knock him out. The grappler has to get the distance, get the grapple, get the hips, and then he can maybe do something, maybe not. The striker just has to touch his chin or his liver, fight's over. So I always told Chuck that. Just remember that. You just have, and Chuck wanted to defend the takedown so bad in his head, right? It was like second nature to him. Nobody was going to be able to take him down, and he usually catch someone trying, and that does hold true for a street fight too, because it's the punches, or if the guy grapples you to the ground, he probably won't get a kimura, but your head might crack off the sidewalk and cause great bodily injury. So, we practice so much from the bottom. I mean, I take first number one, we practice takedown defense being over and over and over. Then we practice escaping from the bottom in case they do get the takedown. And it's usually from a mount, because that's the most common position you're going to get taken down to and pounded on. So we defend we defend the mount more than anything else, but we also work back mount, we work guard, we work half guard, we work, all that other stuff. But, the street, it's just not gonna be the same. And with the knives, I don't really consider the knife a weapon in the street fight in the Hawaiian Kempo. That's what we call, that's if somebody has a disadvantage, we give them that. Right. So if somebody came at me, my age, my height, attacked me, I don't care. I'm gonna defend him, like this. If I think he's even fucking 10 years younger or 10 pounds heavier and somebody physically attacks me, I'm not risking anything. My knife is gonna come out. And that's what I'm gonna defend myself with, because it's an equalizer. At 65, I'll take all the fucking equalizers I can get. When I was 20 something, I would just say, no way, it's going to be, me against you. Now it's, I want to get home to my beautiful wife. So either the knife's going to come out, or he stands up and I think he's going to take something else, I'll take my gun out. So that's my equalizer, which is on top of Hawaiian Kempo. Hawaiian Kempo is empty-handed. You're fighting someone empty-hand, and you have empty hands. But now I want to equalize, or I'll do, Hawaiian Kempo 2.0. Now the weapons come out. So that's how I do it in my system. Does that make any sense, or was that like crazy?
No, no. That was good. That was good.
Some I don't even know. I just start rambling. Now we both ramble.
Well, no, I gave you the go ahead. I did give you the go ahead.
Thank you.
So Tim, we're getting close to our wrap up. What is a message that you would like? Like you made a lot of good points earlier about how most of the people actually complaining, trolling online aren't really. I think a lot of them aren't even martial artists. They're martial arts spectators. And then the ones that are actually martial artists.
Before you let Tim go on.
Good.
Wait. Let me just say one thing. And then I'm done. But Tim, I love your points. I wish we've connected before, because I bet we could do some good I don't know, going back and forth, whatever you call that.
Oh, sure.
But anyway, okay. So if you wrestle and you don't do anything else, you're gay. I mean, you're wearing a singlet and you're rubbing on another guy without trying to hurt him. The only thing you're trying to do is slam him once in a while. Other than that, you just want to pin him. Okay. So that there's that. And Sammy Henson, if you're watching, I'm sorry. Matt, if you're watching, I'm sorry. But and I'm not for you guys that add striking, like Mark the Hammer Coleman. He was a wrestler, but he punched guys too. Once you physically assault another male in a street scenario or in a sports scenario, now it's a combat sport. If you're just rubbing and hugging and grinding and stuff, it's not. And in BJJ, I think there is so many good points of it, but the fact that you guys roll and you get between each other's legs and you just grind there and stuff, but you are at least going for some, submissions and chokes and stuff like that. But so I don't think that in itself is, but just the fact that a guy would want to spend such a large, large portion of their life in between another guy's legs. I mean, there's something you got to admit, guys. There's something. I don't know if it's questionable, but they got to be at least they got to be okay with it. You know what I mean? And I look up to that because they're giving up something really weird to me. That is really, I don't know, but they're doing it because they want to be better at their sport. I don't think they're doing it because they're gay, but it's kind of a gay-like, I don't know, man. I don't know, like activity. Yeah, too soon. I don't know. Sorry, you guys out there, jiu-jitsu guys. Love you.
I have a brown belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, so I'm just
yeah. Well, that means you're okay. You're okay with being between someone's leg. That's okay. Nothing wrong with it. I look up to it.
I'm pretty comfortable with my sexuality.
That's good.
That's good. I don't.
Well, I guess the real question is, Angelo, do you do single or double legs, or do you just pull guard? Because that would be the feminine portion of things. If all you did was pull guard, then I'd say I'd have to agree with John on that.
I only pull guard on weekends.
Anyway, so what else we got here? That's some good stuff. We laid down some good stuff, man.
We can make this a regular show.
This is some good stuff, man.
We are getting close to our wrap up, as I mentioned earlier. And before we wrap up, I was asking Tim what his message is to those people who go online and have nothing but negative stuff to say. He kind of touched on it a little bit, and you talked a lot of, you opened it up with some content creation stuff. And I guess before we go, what message do you have for the martial artists out there who stuck around this
long? Get off the internet and get on the mats.
There you go. There you go. Simple.
Listen, there's a whole people for some reason people just don't understand the difference when I say something like, and maybe it's because they're got too much cauliflower ears, or they need to be hugged or whatever, which is probably why they do BJJ. But at the end of the day, there's a difference between context and with contact and context. There's no question. I mean, even with the Filipino martial arts, there's the Dog Brothers who do MMA stick fighting. That is real contact, but the context is not real because it's two trained opponents going at it. Less than 1% of the population does martial arts, so the odds on fighting another trained fighter in the street are negligible. And we're usually the sheepdogs of our community. We are not the aggressors, the attackers. Yes, some people go bad, but still, we're less than 1% of the population. And majority of those, hate to burst your bubble, it's going to be karate, taekwondo, all the striking arts first, the kaju. It's striking arts first. The minority of the martial art world is the BJJ. It's a subculture. And remember how many drop out. They don't even make it to blue belt. And then after they get the blue belt, the next biggest dropout. Then what happens after you stop training? You've stopped. Your skills diminish. And grappling skills are the hardest to maintain. I think kicking, okay, so grappling's the hardest. Kicking is the next hardest, and then the easiest is your hands. So striking or manipulating weapons are a little harder with that. But, if you're not doing this stuff, if you're not training, you're dying. And a lot of these guys haven't even begun to train, or they didn't make it, or they're the scrubs in the club, and they're all upset about certain things. But at the end of the day, listen to what I say. Don't get butthurt if you feel that it's about you. And I mean, these guys don't even. We had one video. It was very clickbaity. It was BJJ is silly for self-defense. That's what I start with. And the very next line was, this was to all of my fans that saying because I wear shoes, I'm not a legitimate martial artist. And the rest of the video was about talking about shoes and grappling. But people focused on the first line. And the funny thing is, I've had a whole bunch of videos like that where a lot of the viewers are like, do you even listen to what he's saying? Okay, the guy's going to grab you. Oh, that's a terrible punch. No one would ever punch that way. Yes, because I said it was a grab. I think the internet is the best and worst thing all at once. I think COVID has definitely changed people's social skills. I'm still waiting for all these people who allegedly are going to dojo storm me. And I've told them how that would end, which is not going to be a pretty sight. Not to say I'm some big tough guy, but you attack any of us, it's not going to go well because we are like a pack of wolves. And you try to hurt me or any of my students, the rest of the family is going to get involved. It's just because if you want to come in, we have an open door policy. You want to come in and train and hang out and have a good time, we're there. You want to come in and cause trouble, you're not welcome. It's as simple as that. And it's just silliness. I mean, I can't tell you how dumb these people are. Oh, I challenge you. I'm in Buffalo, New York. Fly out to Oregon or wherever the hell it is to fight in the backyard beefs. They want me to pay for my own flight. They want me to pay for my own hotel, my own meals, so I can do this backyard internet promotion that's going to put money in the host's pocket, but I'm supposed to pay all. I mean, dude, you want me to fight $10K, and that's not $10K to fight or to win. That's my time is worth something. You want me to do this? $10K, I'll show up. No one has ever offered to pay me. Oh, I'll do a prize fight where if I win, I get the money, but if I lose, I get nothing. Bullshit. My time's worth something.
So all I heard out of this was, if you want to fight Tim, you got to pay him $10K. So
I'll give you 10%. I'll give you 20% if you can make
that's
that happen.
You're worth more than that, bro.
10K. That's what I heard. So whip out your wallets, folks. 10K, baby. You heard it here.
It should be at least 50.
John's already
I'm gonna start my way. I gotta work. I'll be on the undercard. I gotta work my way up to the big times. Listen, these people are crazy. Like, oh, you can use your swords. I will use my MMA and we can do it as a charity fight. Yeah, to your family. Because it'll have, I mean, like, what? I mean, it's just so stupid. I mean, just these guys, they just don't live in the real world. And I'm like, how moronic can you be? I mean, it's just, but of course, it's all the people who have no followers. So, John, if people are busting your chops, you look at the profiles, and if there's no followers, no posts, no nothing, you know that it's a bogus thing, just someone trying to razz you. Maybe it could even be a friend of yours or a friend of me.
It's usually me.
There we go. It's Angelo. Angelo's bullshitting.
So, John, what are your final thoughts, man?
No, I'm glad we connected, and talked about this good topic. I think we agree on a lot, and I didn't get anything we disagreed on. Plus, I love lumpia. Did it go on?
Lumpia is good.
And I'm not too crazy about what's the egg?
The adobo. I mean,
billet.
Not the adobo.
No,
I mean, balut. No. We'll pass.
Yeah.
Pass.
No, I ate three of them. I ate three of them just to keep everyone happy. But man, that was rough.
And I'm from Hawaii, so I knew a lot of Filipinos.
Crunchy and meaty all at the same time. Ugh.
What is that?
Billet.
Balut. Yeah.
Balut. So I loved it. I thought it was great. A great go back and forth. We need to do that again, man.
Yeah.
I'd be game.
Before we wrap up, one last thing I'm going to say is this podcast isn't about creating an echo chamber, all right? It's about giving martial artists a platform to talk honestly and challenge ideas, agree or disagree. And I think if more people did that than jumping into the comments to just talk some shit about what they feel, then maybe as martial artists, I feel it would make the world a better place. And that's my Jerry Springer final thought of the day. Thanks for coming out to this cross promotion of the Social Juggler with Angelo podcast, the Live Clean and Fight Dirty show. Tim, what's the name of your podcast, man?
So my podcast is FMA for Filipino Martial Arts Talk Live. Most Mondays we put out an episode 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, but you can easily watch it afterwards on Facebook or on YouTube.
All right, so that's where you can find that. And my final thing for Social Juggler with Angelo podcast, one of these once a week, uploaded every Monday stateside because I record in Japan. Catch y'all next time.